This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 478 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. Once upon a time, there was this person named Malcolm. He worked with children. He loved it. Loved it more than anything else. And then one night, found out that he made a mistake with one of them. He couldn't help that one. And he can't stop thinking about it. He can't forget. Ever since then, things have been different. He's not the same person that he used to be. And his wife doesn't like the person that he's become. They barely speak anymore. They're like strangers. And then one day, Malcolm meets this wonderful little boy. A really cool little boy. Reminds him a lot of the other one. And Malcolm decides to try and help this new boy. Because he feels that if he can help this new boy, it would be like helping that other one too. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you joined us. Let's start off like every week by the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel from Indianapolis, Indiana. Soon to temporarily become Taylorsville.
Huh? Oh, she's coming to town?
Taylor comes to town Friday.
Gotcha.
Ready or not, she's a coming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Hopefully, nobody has any plans that involve being anywhere near the Indianapolis area for like the next week.
Be prepared for a lot of traffic.
Yes, among other things. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a certain giant tour that's been happening, that people may or may not have heard of, that I may or may not be living vicariously through people's live streamings on TikTok and or YouTube at multiple stops. The FOMO is real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. It's gonna be really fun to watch those live streams this weekend, though. Being like, I should right down there. I know that venue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be quite interesting week. Was Halloween on Thursday, and then most people are like Halloween 20. Boom, midnight. Christmas. It's like not around here. It's gonna be boom, Taylor Swift for the next 3 days. So. Oh my, it should be fun.
Yeah.
So let's see. News wise, don't really have a whole lot. It's been kind of quiet, probably because there's a major election happening next week. So I think everyone's just kind of like sitting around waiting to see what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before other stuff gets announced.
Yeah. It's like we're a little occupied with,
Mm-hmm.
things, with stuff. Yeah, it's that and everybody's counting down to Wicked. Really, that's the only two things
Mm-hmm.
going on right now. So, that being said, in the feeds for you, for our gold standard fam, we do have a new episode in the main feed where we talk about the 1926 essentially stop motion animation film, The Adventures of Prince Ahmed.
Interesting.
Yes, it is a German film. It is essentially stop motion animation, but it is 2D. and it's very cool. It is very cool. I mean, the story pretty simplistic, but the way that it was pulled off for 1920s, technology, it is pretty dang awesome. So,
Cool.
and because it's so freaking old, it's almost 100 years old. It is public domain, so you can find it just about anywhere. You can find multiple versions of it on YouTube. Um, so yeah, I would recommend checking it out.
Cool.
So
I'll be
um
putting that on my to watch list.
yes. Let's see. And bonus, it was created and directed by a woman.
Oh, wow. Even
Mm-hmm.
but back then, wowza,
Mm-hmm.
that's big time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You
Very,
darn
very
tootin'.
cool. Very,
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah. That just makes it even more awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We stand the female trailblazers around this joint. So, and then in the Patreon feeds for Gold Standard, this month's Patreon episode is available. Where we discuss a movie that we've actually also talked about here. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yay!
Which, get me talking about something from the House of Mouse, and I'm
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially this one.
Yes. Yes, it does hold a special place in my heart.
Mine too. For those of a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
one of the core memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think we even did a little episode on this on it on
I
our little
Yes, we
podcast.
did. Yes, we did. So, uh, yeah, that's really that. We're getting close to the end of the month, so your
Yep.
time is running out with book club for this month.
Mm-hmm. And for voting as well.
Yeah. So you might want to get on to that, and we'll have the results next episode. Because by then,
Yes.
it'll be November, which is
Uh-huh.
crazy to think about.
Yes. Very, very crazy. Very crazy.
Yes. Oh my, where does the time go?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that song that was used during the closing credits of last week's Agatha All Along. Time in a bottle.
Yes. The bottle,
Uh,
yes. Yeah, because I caught up on that when I saw Nick post in our chat, and
yeah,
I'm just like, let me see. I'm going through the list in my mind of what Jim
yeah,
Croce songs could be used. I'm just like, it's going to be that one, and I was right.
yep. You'll be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
And yes, we will be doing our review on Agatha in the near future. Do not
yep,
worry, gentle listener.
yep. The series kind of has to finish first. Uh,
Exactly. We learned it. We learned our lesson instead of reviewing the pilot in the first episode and then.
yeah. And then waiting to see how it
Mm-hmm.
resolves. Like, we're just gonna
So
wait.
yep,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Yep. Righty. Well, let's move on to feedback. So we got some feedback from Shalane.
Yay.
And she mentions that Sunset Boulevard, which we recently covered on Gold Standard, has recently opened on Broadway in a new revival starring Nicole Scherzinger from the Pussycat Dolls and The Masked Singer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I listened to the soundtrack and she sounds incredible. Plus, Andrew Lloyd Webber adapted it into musical, which brings even more drama to the stage. Yeah, he does not think or too bad drama. Yes, this is a revival. The original version, it was Glenn Close playing the role of Norma Desmond. So, which from the images I've seen, it looks more like the film style wise. I've seen images of this version. No offense to Nicole Scherzinger, but I don't think she's old enough to play essentially a washed up Hollywood starlet, you know? So, she's young ish, certainly does not look her age. So, but that's my humble opinion. But I think they're going for a very different style based on what I've seen of this version as well. So I'm sure that plays into it. Again, my humble opinion. She continues, Las Vegas isn't the only city known as Sin City. Cities like Los Angeles, New Orleans, Miami, Atlantic City, New York, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, San Diego, Monte Carlo, and Paris all have similar reputations. Yes, they do. Yeah, but they don't have the tagline "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas."
Stays in
You don't,
Vegas.
you
Yeah,
don't hear it. You don't
exactly.
hear anybody saying "What happens in San Diego stays in San Diego."
Right.
So,
Well, maybe with the exception of Comic-Con, but that's kind of.
yeah,
I mean,
that's talking about Comic-Con. That's not necessarily the city.
right. And I mean, it's just like, that tagline, what happens in Sin City stays in Sin City, is almost like the Fight Club
Yes.
tagline. First rule of Fight Club: we don't talk about Fight Club.
Exactly. So, honestly, I think it's San Diego. It makes you think of Anchorman. Stay classy, San Diego.
Yep.
Oh. Another nickname for Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world, but it's not the only place where you can find people dressed as characters on the street, take pictures for tips. New York City and Los Angeles have the same. Yes, they do. But they're still obnoxious, no matter what city you're in. So, like, trying to get through these crowds of people dressed as random characters, some better costumes than others, and the showgirls in their outfits that really are wanting, they're like, oh, take a picture, buttering up like the guys, like, hey, handsome, want to take a picture? And I'm sure once they do, it's gonna be like $5, because that's the way the costume people do it, like in Times Square and stuff. So it's like just trying to get through to get where you're going. It's like, don't make eye contact, don't let them see the whites of your eyes.
Yeah. Keep your head down, but still be aware of where you're going, so you don't trip and bump into somebody.
Exactly. So it's like, there's people out there in those places. I saw them while meandering up and down the strip, who are just out there wanting to entertain people, people playing music, playing guitar or whatever. And those people are just genuinely out there because they enjoy doing it and they want to entertain the people who are outside in the heat and getting smushed and stuff. And I told Chauncey, I said, next time we come here, I need to remember to have like ones and like fives and stuff in my pocket for those people that are, out kind of busking, just trying to, uh, just trying to do their thing and maybe sell a CD or whatever. It's like those people deserved a tip, or two, because they're not trying to hustle anybody. They're just out there just kind of doing their thing. So I respect the hustle when it comes to that. It's the
Mhm.
it's the dirty hustle that, I take issue with.
Mhm.
Um, I saw some people out there with fold up tables with playing, with like doing 3 card Monty. Uh, you think that's just in movies and TV shows? No, that's legit.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And bet you any money they know how to take it down in 3 seconds flat so they don't get busted by the popo.
Mhm. Mhm. All right, Shalane continues. Another nickname for I already said that. I have tons of college friends who majored in theater with me and now live in Las Vegas. It's actually a fantastic city for theater opportunities. Yeah, there's always, it's the hotels, considering just the number of hotels on the strip, and you look at like the entertainment options at each of
Mhm.
those hotels, and it's like, yeah, usually they have like one like headlining thing. Either it's like a Cirque du Soleil show, or a lot of them have permanent Cirque du Soleil shows. Um, and you have a few that they have residencies, where a big artist will come and do a stretch of 3 months, 6 months, whatever. That's like what the Eagles are doing right now,
Mhm.
is doing a stretch. Adele has done it, Celine Dion's done it, Elton John's done it. Um, so then you have those. Donny Osmond was getting ready to start a residency as,
Mhm.
as as we were leaving. Um, but then they also have like their smaller shows where the entertainers may not be, top bill names, but they're still good. Um, and if you can't get tickets to the big stuff, you may still get to see somebody that's relatively talented that doesn't have people flocking to them just because they're a recognizable name. You're going to see magic acts, you're going to see burlesque shows, you're going to see, all comedy, whatever. Um, so, uh, you just got to keep your eyes peeled for, uh, entertainment options. Don't just think big, look at each hotel and see what they've got offered, and you'd be surprised at what you may discover is something you're like, oh, that looks like that might be fun, and you may be darn right. He says some of my favorite places in Vegas include Eminem's World, Coca-Cola World, New York Hotel and Casino, the Venetian Hotel where a friend of hers works. That's cool. The local theater community, and of course concerts. I haven't been to one there yet, but I wanted to see Taylor Swift last year. My hometown friends went though. Jealous, but I'm fine. I'm fine. She says also I want to visit the Stranger Things experience in Vegas. Hopefully it's still there. I don't remember seeing anything about it while I was there, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be there by the time you get there. Because that's the other thing, is things can change really quickly
Mhm.
in Vegas. They could switch over from one thing to another, at least sometimes.
Mhm.
So thank you, Shalane, for your 2 cents about Vegas. I figure you would. Uh Moving on to a different kind of sense. Uh oh, bad jokes. Oh my.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm not a dad. Dad jokes are not my thing. Um because Halloween is coming up later this week as we're recording this, I thought that it would be appropriate for us to look at a spooky film. Our regular listeners know that like horror and stuff like that, not necessarily our jam.
Mhm.
There's shows that's all they do. Kudos to them.
Yep.
Especially bad horror. You want some bad horror? Red Letter Media just released their this year's Halloween Best of the Worst. Uh, Go watch that. There's some really, really shitty horror movies that they reviewed this year. So So if you want some bad, yeah, bad cinema to
Nightmare
entertain you,
fuel.
yeah, and not in a Freddy Krueger type way, but more like I want those hours of my life back kind of way. Those are your
Mhm.
guys, they have no problem watching uh stuff with blood and guts and just, disgustingness. Not that this movie isn't disgusting, but it's done in a very
It's your
it's
typical M. Night Shyamalan
well, that's
fare.
the thing is we didn't know that this is what because this was the first.
Oh, okay. I forgot it was his first, but
Yeah,
now
so this
looking
set the
this
bar.
right.
Yeah. So now what we consider typical Shyamalan, a lot of it we got from The Sixth Sense,
Mhm.
which is now turning 25 years old, which is
Wow.
redonkulous.
Yes.
Hence our covering of it. Um, but I thought that, this would be a fun kind of, scary movie for us to, kind of cover because it's not it changed kind of the genre of what a
Mhm.
horror film could be. I mean, even Toni Collette, who plays Cole's mother in this movie, she said that, she went through, the auditioning and getting the parts and the rehearsals and the making of the movie. It wasn't until she went and saw it at the premiere that she even realized it was a horror movie. She just thought it was a story about like a really strained relationship between like a mother and son.
Mhm.
You know, that obviously like the very famous scene that I think got both Colette and Haley Joel Oscar nods is the scene in the car towards the end where he finally tells, his mom his big secret. And to prove it, he tells her about her mother, his grandmother, coming to visit him. And so obviously, she's aware that they're having a very emotional conversation about ghosts and him speaking to her deceased mother.
Mhm.
But even then, that doesn't necessarily scream horror to you
No.
because Tony isn't in any scenes really where any of the ghosts make an appearance
No.
other than the bicyclist when they're stuck in traffic. And she's like, oh, I hope nobody got hurt, and Cole's all like, yeah, there was a lady on a bicycle, she died. And his mom was like, well, how do you know? She's like, she's standing right outside my car door, I can see her through the window, and you see this lady in a bicycle with the helmet and like her neck's just broken.
Mhm.
Because she got hit while riding her bicycle. But I doesn't that to film that Tony Collette didn't necessarily need to be there, for that
Right.
shot, so she may have not been witness to it. Um, so she doesn't have really any direct involvement with anything involving any of the ghosts. It's all just her relationship with her son
Mhm.
and the I mean the few times that she and Bruce Willis share screen time together, as we find out with the twist at the end that it, she's not some, they're sitting there quietly and it's because, she's this distraught mother who is at her wit's end with her kid and she's like, oh, here's another psychologist and we're going to go through this whole thing again and whatever. um Type of thing. And she's like, I'm just gonna leave you with the psychologist kid, and when this one fails we'll try something else, that sort of thing. uh so I could see how she may not realize that it's, this is, I mean, it's a horror film. uh
Mhm.
and not just because you're dealing with dead people, but it's the nature of Cole's relationship with the dead. And how it relates not only to ultimately our big twist. Spoiler alert, really. If you don't know, after 25 years that Bruce Willis was dead the entire time after
Right, yeah.
fast forwards 1 year, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. That's like, unless you're Steve Rogers and you've been living under ice for 75 years.
Right, yeah.
You know,
Good
Bruce Willis
analogy,
is
Rachel.
dead most of this
Very good,
movie. Yeah.
very good analogy.
Yeah. Uh Also, spoiler alert, Darth Vader's Luke's father and Princess Leia's. I'm so sorry to spoil that for you. It's been, a long time.
40 plus years.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Um but it's this whole idea, the initial, this movie came out in 1999. And if you can remember 1999, the internet was barely a thing.
Right. We still had dial up.
We still had dial up, so there wasn't a lot of hanging out online unless you were lucky and your parents paid for AOL and you had it. You could add an AIM, username and could go into a AIM chat room.
Right, yeah. Or a good or a little or the bulletin boards back in the day.
Yes, yeah. Um so uh films, if they did, unless they were something that just were a summer blockbuster, like this is also the same year that episode 1 came out. So obviously new Star Wars is going to get people very excited, and that was the number 1 movie of the year for 1999. But The Sixth Sense was number 2, and its opening weekend, it actually did better on Sunday than it did Friday and
Wow.
Saturday, and that's because of word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how films got advertised. Was maybe you'd see a trailer on TV, but it was like, ads in the newspaper. You had to call or look in the newspaper to find out what time movies
Mm-hmm.
were playing.
Yes.
Kids.
Mm-hmm.
So people that went and saw it like either Friday or Saturday were turning around going, "Oh my God, you need to see this movie. You will, your mind will obviously not spoiling it, but it's like, this is the most amazing thing. I've never seen anything like it." So by the time the end of the weekend comes around, all those people's friends are now going. So it does better on Sunday than it did Friday and Saturday. That its numbers actually went up. So um, for a film to do that, especially from a unknown director at the time in a genre that honestly had been kind of floundering. Yeah, we're talking the late 90s, and the psychological slash horror genre had not been doing too well, coming out of the 80s and the schlocky, 5 bazillion sequels of the recognizable franchises, Friday the
Mm-hmm.
13th Part 27, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 42,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, Halloween 64, and I don't mean 1964, I mean Part 64,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It seemed like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jason Goes to Outer Space, while also going underwater at the same time while fighting Cthulhu,
And Freddy Krueger.
and Freddy Krueger, uh, versus the
and,
Mothman, uh,
and then Michael Voorhees decides he feels left out, so he decides, oh, let's join this party.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So by the time we get to the 90s, the horror genre had become kind of a laugh, kind
Mm-hmm.
of the redheaded stepchild of cinema. It occasionally you would get something that would break through, like obviously Silence of the Lambs,
Chucky.
which ended up winning Best Picture, which was
Mm-hmm.
unheard of, and
Yeah.
we've not had since.
Now, when did Saw come out? Was that 90s, late 90s, or was
No,
that
Saw
2000s?
is 2000.
Okay.
So, obviously the Scream franchise,
Yep. Oh,
started
yeah.
in the 90s. You got the Blair Witch
Yep.
Project, which the first one did well, the second one tanked,
Not
and
so
that
much.
franchise
Yeah.
is kind of just puttered out. So occasionally you would
Hmm.
get a blip, or maybe you'd get something that maybe wasn't a huge hit, but it was a big enough hit, like I Know What You Did Last Summer,
Yep.
something like that. Or I don't know. So the genre has going into the 90s, not the hottest genre, by any standard. But then Shyamalan comes along with this story that even now, if you talk to people, it makes them cry, and not because they're scared. It's because of the emotional depth to this. The horror part of it, the whole I see dead people, the ghosts, and seeing people, these dead people who have not been able to move on because of the nature of their death. So when we see what Cole sees, it's gruesome. It's a woman who
Hmm.
slashed her wrist. It's a daughter that's being poisoned by her own mother because of Munchausen by proxy. It's people that have been hung, have been lynched essentially in the
Hmm.
building where his school now takes place. It's an old government
Yep.
building, but they also used it as the gallows.
Yep.
So it's things like that obviously are terrifying, especially when we don't know, like you know throughout the 25 years of people watching this movie over and over and over again and analyzing it and picking out things, you start to see the clues. Like anytime that a ghost or it's supposed to be any time that a ghost uh I watched a behind the scenes thing and they explain it better. They have a better description. But when you see the color red,
Hmm.
it's because it's an object that is near a being that is supernatural. That it's been in contact with someone from the of the supernatural. So it's like, obviously we find out it's at the end. Bruce Willis constantly trying to open the basement door with the red
Hmm.
hand, and the handle is red. His wife seemingly ignoring him, but she's constantly wearing this red shawl around her shoulders. Cole's tent that he makes, that the little girl who was killed by her mom appears in, that sort of thing. Um so so once you take note of the color red, you can kind of mentally prepare yourself, like, oh, a dead person's about to appear. But still, it's jarring. If things like body horror uh disturb you, um for me, for the most part, I can handle most of it. I can handle blood and guts, but I can't handle other bodily fluids. So the girl
Yeah.
vomiting is like the hardest
Hmm.
one for me.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
uh,
It's just like, oh, look away. Let me know when it's done.
yeah, yeah, it's like, yeah, lady whose neck's been snapped while she was riding her bike. Yeah, that's gross, but I'd rather look at that than somebody vomiting any
Yep.
day. But that's just me. So, but if these people weren't dead and they were just people that needed help in some other fashion, then I think you could still almost have the same. It wouldn't be, obviously it wouldn't be exactly the same, but like instead of Cole being someone who has the ability to see dead people, that maybe he was just like a super empath or something, and could tell when someone's in distress and he could help them before, like, that something happens that would cause them to die or get gravely injured or something. I think maybe you could still have something very powerful, but
Mm-hmm.
to make it supernatural, and this is a very long way of me getting to the point I made like 2 years ago, um is this idea of we as humans sometimes refuse to see what is right in front of us. That for whatever reason, fear, guilt, whatever, sometimes causes us to essentially put blinders on and not want to admit the truth. Um, and I think that's extremely powerful. And that's that's the takeaway that I think people even now uh uh maybe not after the first time, because the first time, you get to the twist, Bruce Willis is dead the entire time and everybody's like, ah. Then they got to watch it again and see like, how did I miss that? But after a while, you start latching on to the more the
Mm-hmm.
person to person psychological part of it, the communication, um that sometimes it's intentional. We intentionally put blinders on. Sometimes we don't realize we're doing it because we're just so preoccupied with life.
Mm-hmm.
um and sometimes you wake up down the road and you just kind of look around and go like, what the hell happened? you know so um that's I think that's why this movie still resonates as much as it does. Now, at the time, first time I saw it, which I know I did not see it when it was brand new, uh it's definitely not something that my mother would have allowed me to see at even at 16. uh um but yeah, I don't know how old I was the first time I saw this. I was probably in my early 20s, more than
Mm-hmm.
likely. And the whole jump scares with the different ghosts and stuff was, at the time, it freaked me out. Uh but uh as a more mature person with more life experience now,
Mm-hmm.
of like, as much as people, we could talk about Shyamalan's legacy uh here later. Um, but even after all this time, I'm like, damn, dude, that's some really good writing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, now, obviously, you're a little older than me, Holly, but did you see
Yep.
this one? This was brand new, or was it a
Mm,
little bit before you saw it?
it was a little while before I saw it. I think my dad might have rented it, but just, I kind of, because my dad knew it wasn't my cup of tea. It's like, you can do it if you want to go watch something else. That's fine. I'll let you know when I'm done,
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. And it was just like, yeah. Or I watched a little bit of it, and it's like, I'll. I'm going outside for a bike ride type.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it a few years later, but I think I watched it after I had seen M. Night Shyamalan's Signs with
Oh
Mel
yeah.
Gibson, and then then that one is like, okay, now maybe I can handle Sixth Sense, and sure enough, yeah, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, I'm ready.
Yeah. It's like, oh, aliens that are allergic to water? Okay.
Okay,
Uh
yeah, okay, that I can handle.
that I can
Now let's
handle.
see. Now
So
let's see
yeah,
if I
well,
can
it's a
handle
little
this.
boy who
Okay.
sees dead people. Sure, why
Well,
not?
sure,
Because
no,
those
yeah.
are, yeah, it's
I
not
mean,
even
yeah,
in.
same spectrum, but it was, but the creepiness factor. And yeah, it's like, okay. And then two, I had seen more suspense, jump scare stuff, so I was a little more acclimatized to
Mm-hmm.
having the crap scared out of me a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more. So
Yeah, you almost kind of have to desensitize yourself
yes,
for some,
yeah,
for this particular genre.
yeah.
You kind of have to like dip your toe in the water and
Baby
start out with
steps.
like, with like, and see what you can handle. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, this is
Yeah.
definitely, when I saw it, it had to have been one of the most like intense movies I had ever seen in my life up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd ever seen anything so just really disturbing
Mm-hmm.
is the only way to put it. Um, and uh again, at the time I was just all like, vomit,
Right.
blood, guts.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time, it's like I can handle blood and guts now. Several
Right.
seasons of Game of Thrones will do that to you.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. Most
yeah,
definitely. Yes.
you become quite desensitized to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things after several seasons of Game of Thrones.
Right.
Uh,
And or a few Stephen King novels under your belt
yes,
and
that's
creations.
true as well.
Then you're good too.
Yeah, that is true as well. Uh, I
I
hadn't
mean,
watched a
that's a
lot of
pretty good
Stephen King
comparison.
adaptations up to that point, so
Yeah.
again, I was a sheltered child, uh, whose
I wouldn't
parents
say
were very
miss.
particular about the things I consumed if it was under their roof.
Yeah,
Uh,
which probably, good.
yeah, in the grand scheme of things, yes, probably a good thing.
Yes, good thing,
Uh,
yes.
um, but, um, but yeah, it's just, looking at it now, 25 years later, it's just all like, the twist is like the least, like that's just like, like the first, like that's something you only get the first time.
Mhm.
And for some people, it's like when you get something with like a huge plot twist or whatever, people are like, oh, well, I can't watch it again because I already know what's going to happen. And it's like, yeah, but now you can watch it and you can look for the clues.
Right, you can pay attention to, like, okay, where were they trying to drop the clues, and I wasn't paying attention, I was focusing on this over here.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I mean, the thing is, there are clues, but at the same time, they flat out tell us,
Right,
and we don't
exactly.
realize it when
They're almost hitting
Bruce,
us over the head with it, and we're
yeah,
still
when
not
Bruce
getting it.
Willis is it finally gets Cole to open up to him, and he's like, "Do you
Yeah.
want to know my secret?" And he's like, he does the whole "I see dead people" bit, and he's like,
Mhm.
"I see dead people. They don't know they're dead. They can't see other dead people." And it's like they're literally telling us
Uh-huh.
this guy is dead and he doesn't know it. Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, basically, minus Haley Joel Osment coming right out and saying in this character, "Dude, you're dead."
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the thing is that they leave it open to interpretation
Mhm.
on, did Cole know
Mhm.
if Bruce Willis was actually dead? Logically, based on what we know of Cole's abilities and the way it works, he sees people the way they were when they died. So when he sees
Mhm.
Bruce Willis, he should be seeing someone with a big old gunshot wound in his side, bleeding
Right.
profusely.
But we never see that, or they
Yeah,
hit
but
it
we
well
don't
where we
see
couldn't.
that.
Yeah.
He never says anything. But then
Mhm.
again, he never says anything to any of the other dead people either. Like,
Right.
he acknowledges their existence, but he's not
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you're dead and you've got unfinished business. Let's get you sorted out here." Other than with the little
Right.
girl, I think that was different because it was someone close to his age.
Right, yeah. Because
And
I'm
the
thinking
fact
with the older people, he's like, "You should have this figured out by now."
yeah, yeah. Well, and the fact that she came to him
Mhm.
from so far away. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, again, he has to get on a bus and go, like, clear across town all by himself with the ghost of Bruce Willis,
Uh-huh.
to go to this wake where, he's not invited, nobody knows who he is, he doesn't know these people, to go and sneak into the place where this girl has hidden this tape so that, he could give it to the father and be like, "Look, your wife is a little cray cray and she killed your kid and she's working on the other one."
Right, yeah. Hate to
Because you
be the
hear,
bearer of bad news,
yeah,
but
because like you can hear people talking as he's like walking through the house at the
Mhm.
wake, where you hear somebody say, "Oh, I've heard the younger one is starting to fall ill." You know, so it's like, not only is Cole getting this girl closure, but also saving her sister's life.
Right.
Which really, who wears a bright red suit to your kid's wake? That just
Ye
screams
Mhm.
wrong. Like,
Yeah.
there's something psychologically wrong. Like, you don't have to wear black
No, but
necessarily, but you don't wear red.
no, and especially that shade of red.
Yes, like if she'd wore something that was like maybe like a more purpley, like plum,
Yes. Mhm.
maybe. But
Yeah,
no,
then
she's
I
in
could
like
see it.
fire engine red skirt suit.
Yes. No, lady, this is not Valentine's Day.
Yes. Yeah. You're not at a, this isn't a cancer fundraiser.
No.
Or a fundraiser for the Salvation Army or something.
Or a fundraiser for the National Heart Disease Foundation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, if that
I
didn't
think we hate
scream,
all the
there's
ones that
something.
have red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Oh, wait a
need
minute.
Maybe she
Maybe
needs a
she
purple hat to go with it. Maybe that's what it was.
or maybe she's volunteering to go on an away mission.
Yeah. Maybe that's what she needs to do, is go on an away mission. Like, Starfleet, we got a volunteer right here.
Yes.
She'll
Mhm.
gladly enlist her services for the next away mission.
Uh-huh.
No questions asked.
Nope.
Her qualifications, she's totally qualified.
Mhm.
Um,
Sorry,
oh
I
my.
couldn't. I couldn't
No, no,
resist.
no. You knocked that one out of the park there. Uh, oh my. So
Can you tell how much we hate the mother?
yeah, 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 really. Um, so uh, goodness. Uh,
Sorry, didn't mean to
oh no.
derail your train of thought.
No, that's okay. It's like her, the mom and the what's his name, Tommy, that's supposed to be Cole's friend.
Hmm.
That's really just a little dick.
Yeah.
So like, don't love much for you either. Uh but yeah, that's all good. Um so yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies that has just kind of permeated into the culture zeitgeist, and at the time made M. Night Shyamalan like the hot new director of the time period. He written this, and he directed it, and he even has cameo. He has an appearance in it. He's an Alfred Hitchcock type thing. He makes an appearance in all of his movies. And although because this was his first one, what he filmed for his cameo, because he plays a doctor in the hospital, and his cameo appearance actually was a lot longer, but he hated his acting, so he ended up cutting quite a bit of it. But he wanted to have some of it in there, and the fact that he was playing a doctor was an homage to a lot of people in his family are doctors. So
Okay.
he thought it was a nice homage to other people in his family. Um, so which I think that's kind of cute. Um, so and obviously, he's makes an appearance in all of his movies. So some are more
Mhm.
obvious than others, but he makes an appearance in all of them.
Mhm.
So fun to watch. Find the Night.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and um, it was filmed in and around Philly, um, and um, it's his writing style and the idea of a plot twist was something that, like I said, he kind of reinvented the genre
Mhm.
for the time period, and um gave him a lot of clout. Unfortunately, it long term, he kind of wrote himself into a box,
Yes.
because now every time he comes out with a movie, even after this, immediately people are like, "Oh, what is he going to follow this up with?"
Mhm.
And it
How is he
has
gonna
been
top himself?
right, and it's like you can't, after a while, you're going to, so some of his films don't have twists necessarily. Now he always tends to lean towards some sort of psychological horror that keeps you on your toes, maybe has you gripping the armrest a little. Um but yeah, the fact that he kind of wrote himself into a corner of the twist guy, it's like, what can you do after a point? His next movie after this was Unbreakable, which did have a plot twist to it. Again, Bruce Willis. Signs, aliens allergic to water. Not yeah, yeah. Uh, as twist goes. The Village also, as far as twists, I'm not gonna go and spoil all of them.
Mhm.
The Happening. eh,
Yeah.
That's also Mark Wahlberg. So
Mhm.
Donnie plays Malcolm's old patient that shoots him in the
Mhm.
beginning of this movie, and then a few years later, Mark
Mm.
Wahlberg ends up picking. So the
Mhm.
less we talk about his adaptation of The Last Airbender, the better.
Yeah.
Uh Split, really good.
Okay.
Um
Haven't
that is
watched
that
that
is
one.
that is the second in um the
This is the
kind
first
of
one, like,
it's Unbreakable, Split, and then Glass.
okay.
Yeah. So the twist of Split being that it is set in the same, not only universe but timeline as Unbreakable, and is essentially a sequel, was a big big surprise, and surprise, that was the twist. Took a lot of people by surprise, and realizing that means we're probably going to visit these characters again. And as since we recently talked about James McAvoy, talking about his performance in this, it is a really, really good performance by James McAvoy. So it's like you could almost, if you didn't care that it's connected to Unbreakable, and that there's another movie after that, honestly, you could just watch it just for James McAvoy's performance. And I think you would be thoroughly entertained, because it's just a really, really good performance by James McAvoy. Glass, and it has a twist. I can't say I really cared for it. Actually, it has a couple twists, and neither of them I really care for. Old, eh. Knock at the Cabin. That is that's not Old and Knock at the Cabin are adaptations. Old is based on a graphic novel. Knock at the Cabin is based on the novel Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I've not read that one. I actually read my first Tremblay novel a couple months ago. That was Horror Movie, which I could see maybe Shyamalan or somebody like that maybe attempting to adapt that into a movie. I will say, if they do, please do something else with the ending, change it, because I'm not really happy with the way that novel ended. So, but from what I understand, the adaptation for Cabin at the End of the World, which is Knock at the Cabin, is not terrible. From what I understand, Nick was familiar with the source material, and he said that it's not a bad adaptation, even with some changes. And then his most recent films, The Watchers and Trap. And then he's got one more due out this year on HBO Max that I think has already been released. So yeah, it's his filmography, as far as like the Shyamalan type films. Like The Sixth Sense. He's been hit and miss, and part of that is watcher expectations. People's expectations about him as a director and a screenwriter. And some of that is he is a victim of his own devices.
Yep.
So,
I mean, there's some stuff he tried and it did not land the way everybody thought it was going to land.
which, at least he's trying.
Right, exactly.
Not everything's gonna stick when you throw it at the wall, but
right,
occasionally something does, and you end up with something halfway decent. So, but this is definitely, when you start with the bar, when you come out the gate and set the bar this high, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So, I don't know necessarily what else to say. I mean,
Me either. If you've never
it's
seen an M. Night Shyamalan movie before, I'd say give this one a try.
yeah,
I don't think you'll be
yeah,
disappointed. I mean, it's his first one, yes, but
yeah. And like I
hey,
said,
why not
even
go
even if
with the game?
even even if you've not seen it, but the twist,
Go watch it.
I would still say watch it. If anything else, you can watch it for Bruce Willis. He's okay. As far as Bruce Willis performances go, this is not terrible. It's pretty darn good. it's
Mhm.
really Toni Collette and Haley Joel Osment, especially
Yes.
Haley Joel.
It's
Uh,
their movie. It's their movie
yeah,
to shine.
yeah, they're fantastic.
Mhm.
Obviously, Haley Joel carries a brunt of this movie.
Yeah.
Toni Collette doesn't get nearly as much screen time, but what screen time she does, she is fantastic in that scene in the car towards the end. Is
Oh, yeah.
just,
And
you
doesn't
know,
get enough credit for
breaks
this
your
role, I think.
heart.
Yeah.
Um, and you can watch it for that, or if you're maybe someone that's into screenwriting or maybe directing and the art of creating cinema and telling a story through cinema, I think this is a really great movie to like watch and analyze
Mm,
as a creator. Look at what they do, as look at what he does as far as framing things. It's almost like how a magician
yeah.
works, where they frame things and create actions to draw your eyes to certain places so that you're not seeing what's happening elsewhere. It's very much pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, but with less
Mhm.
chaos. Uh um so he's very much this is done in a way that very much reminds me of something like what a magician does, where they control the storytelling the entire time. So even though you think you know what's going to happen, you don't. Um and they only let you see what they want you to see. And again, that's kind of the takeaway from this film, is in the process of creating and telling us a story in a way that only allows us to see what Shyamalan wants us to see. They are teaching us a lesson about being more observant,
Mhm.
because you watch this again and again without the tunnel vision, and you start to take in so much more and realize that the clues, and in some case they're flat out telling you what
Mm.
is going on, and it is a fantastic bit of storytelling. It's a great construction, if anything else, and I think that's what makes it stand the test of time after
Mhm.
25 years, and makes it rewatchable even after you know the twist.
Yeah.
Because
I
you can sit
totally
there and
agree.
just you can watch the different scenes and see the way they're framed and the choice of color and lighting and subtle things that you don't like. There are scenes that, even now, after watching some other people's reviews and videos and stuff on YouTube, like, I never noticed that there are scenes where it's lit in a way that the people are casting shadows. There's a point where a door is, I think it's when they go to the wake for the little girl, and they open the bedroom door, and you
Mhm.
see Cole's shadow on the ground, but not Malcolm's. Malcolm doesn't cast a shadow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I did not catch that.
yeah. So it's like, it's so there's just so much to it.
Mhm.
Um, and
Rewatchability.
yes, it makes it very rewatchable. Like I said, if body horror, gives you the ick, just be aware.
Mhm.
We are talking about dead people, and not dead people who died nicely in their sleep. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
these are horrific deaths, and that's why they have not moved on. Is
Mhm.
because of their deaths were so traumatic that they need, in this case, Cole's help to try to move on. Um, so keep that in mind. But if that doesn't bother you, then there you go. And yeah, you can give other. Yeah, I mean, you can give other Shyamalan a shot after this, if you like. Like I said, the bar is set pretty high here, so
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you've never seen Shyamalan, maybe you should see something like The Village first. And set the bar low, and then work your way up to just skip The Happening. You don't need to see it's Mark Wahlberg. You know, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You know, you're slightly before my time. I'm slightly too young for your demographic, but I know you were the shit in the '80s and in the early '90s. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You were the shit. You are a terrible actor. Uh, other than in Boogie Nights. You're pretty darn good in Boogie Nights. Everything else I've seen you in, though, you are awful. So, and I even mean that in The Departed. So you are so not my cup of tea. I'm sure somebody loves you somewhere. Probably not your ex-sister-in-law. Speaking of Donnie, and people on The Voice. That's why Nicole's not been on The Voice. It's because she's doing Sunset Boulevard. Preparing to do Sunset Boulevard and now doing Sunset Boulevard. So, but yeah. So yeah, your mileage may vary if you're new to the Shyamalan universe, where you want to go. If you want to, if you want suggestions, you'd be like, hey, I could get my hands on these options right here. Which one should I go with? Yeah, feel free to send a message and we'll give you our 2 cents. I mean, our word is not law by any means, but if you want our opinion, we'll gladly give it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Speaking of which, Holly, do you have any final opinions?
Nope, not really. Just if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. That's all I can say.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listeners, if you want to, ask ask our opinions, you can send us feedback. Holly, you're buzzing.
Sorry.
It's okay, we're almost done. At least it waited till towards the end.
Yeah. I've been doing pretty good. That one slipped by me.
Yeah. Well, at least your internet's working this week, so we're gonna call that a win. If you're buzzing, that means you're online.
Yes, exactly.
Wins for everybody. So yeah, if you want to again ask us questions, you can send us an email. Our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, which is thefivishfangirls.com, where you can connect with all of our podcast related social media accounts and our individual personal ones as well. There's also links to things like the book club that we mentioned earlier. So again, you've got a few more days in October to make your vote for the second to last book club choice of 2024, which oh my god, where did the year go?
No kidding.
Yeah, I
Like we
know.
just started.
I know. Uh So there's a link to the book club, or you can join in the discussion. We keep the discussions open all the time until Goodreads decides to do otherwise. Hopefully they don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. That would suck. We'd figure something out.
Yeah.
If that became the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a link to that on the website. If you would like to financially support us, you can also find those links via the website. There is Ko-fi if you would like to just do a one-time monetary donation if you'd like to become a regular supporter. We do have Patreon, where our Patreon supporters occasionally get a little extra. Sometimes it's our chatter before we start recording. Sometimes it is unedited video that I have shot at conventions and stuff. Sometimes it's a sneak peek at the schedule, what we have on the docket, that sort of thing. So it just kind of depends on what we can pull out of our bag of tricks for Patreon supporters. Or if you want something a little more tangible in return, you can buy merch, which is on our shop on Redbubble. Again, link on the website. So that is that. So hopefully everyone has a safe Halloween, however you celebrate or participate. Hopefully Mother Nature doesn't not cooperate. Right now it looks like it's gonna be cold and rainy here in Indiana on Halloween. So most everyone's Halloween costume may also be invoking a bit of Gene Kelly with an umbrella. So
Yeah.
but try not to eat too much candy in one sitting. You'll get a tummy ache. Yeah, it'll keep, I promise. Most of it you can either stick in the fridge and or the freezer to help extend the life of it. So you don't need to eat it all the same night you get it. You'll gotta stretch it out a little. We got some time before Thanksgiving where we can, indulge ourselves again. So
Yeah.
But until excuse me, until our next episode, which will be in November, uh we shall sign off for this week.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Keep moving, cheese dick. Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefivishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FivishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.